Have you ever wondered why someone who swore they loved you could turn cold overnight? Why the person who once said you were their everything can suddenly vanish, leaving you questioning if any of it was real? Sartre would tell you it was never what you thought. She doesn't love you. She loves herself. At first, that line feels harsh, almost insulting, but Jean-Paul Sartre, the French existentialist, believed this is the brutal truth hidden beneath most relationships. Love, as we imagine it, is rarely a selfless devotion. More often, it is a mirror, one person using another to reflect their own value back to themselves. Sartre argued that every human being is condemned to be free. On the surface, that sounds liberating, but in reality, it means we are alone with our choices, responsible for every step, with no ultimate guide to give us meaning. That much freedom terrifies us, so we cling to others, to lovers, friends, even strangers, not purely for who they are, but for what they confirm about us. And here is the sting. When she says she loves you, Sartre would ask, does she truly love you as a free and independent being? Or does she love how you make her feel? Does she love the reflection of herself she sees in your admiration? Does she love the comfort, the security, the validation that she matters? Think about it. How many times has love been expressed in words like, I can't live without you, or you complete me? These sound romantic, but Sartre saw them as dangerous illusions, because beneath them is dependency. They reveal not a pure love for another's freedom, but a hidden need to be reassured, to be filled, to be validated. And when that need is no longer met, what happens? The love fades, the warmth turns cold. The affection you thought was about you was really about her. It was conditional, built not on your essence, but on what you gave her story, her self-image, her ego. This, Sartre said, is the paradox of love. We long to capture another's freedom, to have them choose us forever. But the moment they are bound, their choice no longer feels free. Love becomes a battlefield, a struggle between wanting genuine devotion and wanting possession. And in that struggle, illusions shatter. So when the day comes that she pulls away, don't be shocked. Don't cling to the idea that her love was eternal. Sartre's brutal truth is this: she may never have loved you for who you are, but for what you meant to her. Let that settle in, because next we'll uncover Sartre's idea of bad faith and why most people willingly live inside lies about love just to avoid facing their own emptiness. The first layer of deception is believing she loves you unconditionally. The second is the lie you tell yourself to keep believing it. Sartre called this bad faith. It is the act of deceiving yourself to avoid facing the weight of freedom, responsibility, and truth. In relationships, bad faith is everywhere. Think about the way most people speak about love. They say things like, "We were meant to be," or "She's my other half." These words may sound comforting, but Sartre saw them as self-deception. They hide the reality that no relationship is inevitable, and no person can ever truly complete another. By pretending love is destiny, people escape the anxiety of freedom, the unsettling truth that relationships only last as long as both individuals continue to choose them. This is why so many men are blindsided when love ends. They believed in the story that she would always be there because it felt destined. But in truth, you ignored her freedom. You forgot that at any moment she could choose differently. Bad faith convinces us love is permanent, but existential reality reminds us it is fragile, conditional, and always subject to change. The danger of bad faith is not only in what it hides, but in what it creates. When you convince yourself her love is eternal, you stop seeing her as a free individual. You turn her into a role, a girlfriend, a wife, a partner, as if that title locks her in forever. But people are not roles. They are shifting, living beings, constantly redefining themselves. The moment you try to freeze someone into a fixed role, you betray their freedom and ultimately destroy love itself. This is why so many relationships collapse under pressure. One partner wants the other to always remain the same, to keep providing the same feelings of security and validation. But people change. And when they do, bad faith can no longer hold the illusion together. The lie crumbles, and what remains is the truth. She doesn't love you in the eternal, unchanging way you imagined. She loved what you represented in that moment of her life. When her needs, desires, or self-image evolved, her love shifted with it. Sartre strips away the fairy tale. Love is not destiny written in the stars. It is a constant act of choosing, renewed every day, fragile and uncertain. When you build your life on bad faith, pretending otherwise, you set yourself up for devastation. Next, we'll explore another hidden layer: how love can turn into a struggle for control, where one person attempts to possess the other's freedom while denying their own. Even after you understand that love is often conditional and that bad faith clouds perception, there is another, darker layer to what Sartre observed. Love can quickly turn into a struggle for control. It is not just about being loved. It becomes about possessing the freedom of another person while trying to hide the insecurities of your own. Sartre believed that many people enter relationships hoping to capture and lock in the freedom of another. They want proof that they matter, that they are chosen, that their value is undeniable. But the moment you attempt to bind someone to your expectations, you clash with the very thing that makes love possible, the other person's autonomy. Love cannot exist as a cage. The more you try to control, the more the other resists, consciously or unconsciously. Think about the dynamics you have witnessed or experienced. One partner becomes jealous, demanding, or overprotective, believing this ensures loyalty and devotion. But what it really does is push the other away. Freedom cannot be contained. It is meant to be exercised. Sartre would say this is the fundamental tension of human relationships. We want closeness, yet we fear the independence of those we love. This struggle explains why many relationships implode despite the initial intensity of passion. You may give your all, but if it is given under the expectation of possession or reciprocation, it ceases to be genuine. She does not love you for who you are in this moment. She may resist you precisely because her freedom feels threatened. And when control enters love, resentment and disappointment inevitably follow. It is here that existential reality delivers its harshest lesson. Love is not about ownership. Trying to make someone stay because of your desires, needs, or insecurities is a betrayal of their freedom and, ultimately, a betrayal of yourself. The deeper your attachment is to the illusion that she must remain, the more vulnerable you are to heartbreak. Sartre's perspective strips away romantic myths. Love is not a permanent state guaranteed by words, promises, or feelings. It is a continuous, conscious choice made by both individuals. It requires mutual respect for freedom, an acceptance of change, and the humility to face the truth that no one owes us their affection. Understanding this, men can begin to step back, observe relationships more clearly, and avoid falling into traps of possessiveness or self-deception. The key is to recognize that true love cannot survive if it is built on illusion, control, or fear. It is fragile, but it is only meaningful when both people freely choose it every day. Let's examine how self-awareness and the refusal to cling to illusions allows you to navigate love without losing yourself. Even after understanding that love can be conditional, clouded by self-deception, and often turns into a struggle for control, most people still fall into the trap of clinging. They hold on too tightly, desperate to preserve what they imagined was permanent. Sartre's philosophy exposes this as one of the most common forms of self-deception, a refusal to face the reality of freedom, change, and impermanence. Clinging is instinctive. When someone we care for drifts away, it triggers fear. Fear of loss, fear of emptiness, fear of being alone. Sartre would argue that clinging is not merely emotional. It is existential. When you hold on to someone to avoid facing your own freedom, you live in bad faith. You pretend that your security, identity, or happiness depends entirely on someone else, instead of accepting that you are responsible for creating those things yourself. This is why heartbreak feels catastrophic. It is not only the loss of the other person, It is the sudden confrontation with the illusions you built. Much of what you believed about love, about security, about permanence, was a story you told yourself to avoid facing the void. Sartre called this existential anxiety, the awareness that your life is yours alone to define, with no guarantees, no scripts, no safety nets. The paradox is brutal. The more you cling, the more you push the other away. Desire for control, need for reassurance, fear of abandonment, all of these make love suffocating. The very act meant to preserve connection destroys it. She may have initially been drawn to your presence, your admiration, or your devotion. But when that devotion becomes possessiveness, attraction transforms into resistance. Freedom resists confinement. Autonomy resists control. Clinging also blinds you to reality. You overlook signals that her priorities are shifting or that her desires are changing. You see only what you want, the idealized version of her love. You convince yourself that if you try harder, she will return, or that her distance is temporary. Sartre would describe this as another layer of bad faith, a refusal to accept her as a free individual capable of making choices independent of your expectations. Letting go is not weakness. It is the ultimate expression of understanding freedom, both yours and hers. By releasing attachment to outcomes, you respect her autonomy while reclaiming your own. You stop measuring your value based on her actions, words, or affection. You stop defining yourself through someone else's perception. Sartre insisted that authentic living begins when you confront these truths. To cling is to deny reality. To let go is to embrace it. Yet insight alone is not enough. Humans crave connection, seek validation, and fear abandonment. Letting go requires discipline, self-awareness, and courage. You must face loneliness without running to distraction. You must confront the void that Sartre said freedom exposes, the emptiness that comes when you realize you alone are responsible for your life. And yet, it is precisely in this confrontation that authentic living begins. By facing emptiness, you free yourself from dependency and learn to engage in love without illusions. Personal growth often follows heartbreak. The moment you recognize that her love was never absolute, you gain clarity. You begin to see the illusions that governed your past relationships. You understand the patterns of dependency, control, and possessiveness that trapped you. You start to build connections not on fear, not on expectation, but on respect, freedom, and mutual choice. By recognizing the trap of clinging, you begin to change how you engage with others. You learn to respect her freedom, your freedom, and the fragile beauty of connection built on conscious choice. Sartre's truth is stark. She may never have loved you for who you truly are, but by confronting the reality of freedom, detachment, and self-responsibility, you can stop living in illusions, navigate love more wisely, and protect yourself from unnecessary suffering. You can experience connection without surrendering your autonomy, without losing your sense of self, and without being crushed when illusions inevitably collapse. Understanding this truth is not comfortable, but it is liberating. Clinging is the easy path, the path of denial. Letting go, truly letting go, is the step that frees you, that allows you to live with clarity, dignity, and strength. It is the act that separates those crushed by love from those who navigate it with awareness, purpose, and resilience. By now, you've seen the harsh truths Sartre revealed. Love is rarely unconditional. Clinging is a trap, and most heartbreak stems not from cruelty, but from illusions we create about others and about ourselves. But within this darkness lies the path to freedom. Understanding these truths does not make life easier, but it makes it real. It gives you the tools to navigate relationships with awareness, to see people as they are, and to stop surrendering your life to false narratives. Freedom is not abstract. It is lived every day in every choice you make. When you let go of the illusions of love, when you stop trying to control, manipulate, or cling, you reclaim yourself. You stop defining your value through someone else's affection. You stop measuring your worth by whether someone stays or leaves. You step into a life where your decisions, Your growth and your happiness are yours alone to create. This does not mean detachment from connection. On the contrary, it allows deeper, truer engagement. You can love freely without being enslaved to the idea of permanence. You can respect another's freedom while protecting your own. And in that space, real relationships, grounded in mutual choice, respect, and honesty, become possible. You begin to notice the beauty in fleeting moments, the depth in honest conversations, and the clarity in understanding that each person's path is their own. Love is no longer about possession, but about presence, no longer about fear, but about appreciation. Sartre's lesson is brutal, but it is also empowering. Suffering in love is not inevitable. Dependency, illusions, and control are traps we set for ourselves. Awareness, self-responsibility, and the courage to face truth are the keys to liberation. The question is, will you confront these truths, or will you continue living in stories that hurt you? The choice is yours. To live in fantasy, or to embrace reality with all its uncertainty and all its freedom. If this message resonated with you, if it sparked reflection or shifted the way you see relationships, there is more to explore. By subscribing, you'll join a community that dives deep into philosophy, psychology, and the truths most people avoid. And for those who want to support these explorations and help us create even more thought-provoking content, consider joining us on Patreon, where your support fuels deeper research, richer scripts, and a channel committed to helping you navigate life with clarity and insight. Your contribution is not just support. It is a way to invest in wisdom that challenges, awakens, and transforms. Life is a choice. Love, freedom, and understanding are choices. Choose wisely, and the path you walk will be your own, authentic, conscious, and unbound by illusion. The question is, will you live as a spectator of life, or as the author of your own existence?